A young man named Mike loves shooting various creepy videos on YouTube after school. He doesn't have friends, and he rarely does anything other than study and shoot videos. One day, while scrolling through the news, he comes across a story from 1998 about two famous scientists who dedicated their lives to studying skin cancer. Their experiments seemed ordinary and almost successful. The research was conducted on animals, and the scientists were on the verge of discovering a cure for this dreadful disease. However, at one point, one of the doctors responsible for developing the medicine name to be decided disappears without apparent reason, while the other, his brother, ignores all questions related to this and stops appearing in public altogether. What makes this story unusual is that the scientists adamantly refused to work outside their home where they had a personal laboratory and surgical facilities, which displeases the government. Still, since they were the only people who could theoretically save the world, no one touched them. Several weeks after the disappearance of the second brother, the police, armed with a search warrant, burst into their house and discovered a terrible scene which they decided to hide from the public eye. They tried to detain the remaining scientist, but he managed to escape into the nearby forest. After this incident was attempted to be hidden from the public, the government pretended that the development of the drug was still being carried out by only one scientist, although no one knew what had happened to him and what the police had found when they entered the house. Seeing this story in the news, Mike becomes very interested in it. However, he understands the risks of violating the law if he wants to shoot what is now there because the house is boarded up, and there is a 2-meter electric fence. However, hoping for good luck and youthful maximalism, he decides to go to the forest to find that house under cover of night, equipped with batteries, a camera, and courage. He heads into the forest, where he walks for a long time and notices a path that goes for about an hour and finally sees an electric fence. He records this on camera and carefully, with the help of a flashlight, disconnects the electricity and cuts the entrance with wire cutters. Outside the fence, he notices that one window looks less securely boarded up. He breaks it and gets inside to the main floor. It looks like an ordinary hotel without furniture, with only traces of where the furniture used to be. Everywhere, there is yellow tape, showing that the police were here a long time ago. He sees a covered staircase downstairs, barely pushing a huge shelf. Mike slowly descends and enters the main department, where the laboratory is located. He sees that the police were there too, and there are a lot of broken documents on the floor, papers, animal cells, etc. Mike records this on camera, feeling the tense atmosphere, and fear begins to catch up with him. His heart is pounding, but then he notices a small hole behind another huge shelf. Pushing it aside, he sees a punched hole in the wall. He decides to crawl inside. Inside, he feels dampness and descends even deeper down the stairs. He feels a strange smell unlike anything else. He jumps off the ladder and sees a room where there are also cells, but they are much larger and they are open. And in them, horrified, he sees the remains of human things and a lot of blood. Following the dried footprints of bloody boots, he enters the operating room, where he sees a chair with strange devices that resemble lawn sprinklers. There is blood everywhere and the remains of human bodies, although surprisingly the chair itself looks quite clean. Mike, scared, sees all this, not knowing what to do since clearly the police did not reach this place. He hears footsteps and starts to hear a voice from afar, which sounds like an old man saying, "I knew you would come. You are all so predictable." Mike realizes that the voice from the stairs is addressing him and immediately starts to run, rushing into some strange room. He props it up with a refrigerator, turns around, and sees a very frightening sight. In the room, there are about 20 figures completely covered in wax, with notes attached to them with numbers and names of people. And he notices his brother's name under number 1, the scientist who disappeared without a trace. Approaching one of them, Mike touches the figure on the face and realizes with horror that part of the skin comes off along with the wax. Realizing that these are all real people who are no longer alive, Mike falls into even more hysteria than his hiding place betrays, and he hears someone heading towards him. Mike tries to hide under the table, realizing that all this time the scientist didn't disappear, but was walled up in wax by his brother for an unknown reason. And then he hears the refrigerator fall, which he had leaned against the door. Mike hears a hoarse voice of an old man saying, "Well, you've understood everything. What did it give you?" Mike accidentally drops the flashlight trying to get his phone, and the man catches up with him, grabbing him by the coat and stunning him with something elongated. After Mike wakes up, he finds himself on that chair with a drip, realizing that he is the next victim of the insane scientist, whom the police have been searching for all this time. They engage in a dialogue in which Mike realizes that the treatment for skin cancer was much more interesting to his brother than their time together, and that he harbored resentment when he realized that his brother had succeeded and only he. It was mentioned everywhere, while the second was simply forgotten. And then I decided that if the world wasn't interested, then they didn't deserve to see the treatment, said the man with a dreadful smile on his face, and injected Mike with a bear tranquilizer. After Mike wakes up, he finds himself in the form of the 21st figure, joining the ranks of wax figures in the basement of the once great scientist gone mad. Opening his eyes, he cannot move, and his skin burns terribly. He realizes that he is now just a figure, and that the desire to explore the unknown and his hobby has destroyed him. And the most annoying thing is that no one will ever know about it because there is no way out. Thus passed the last hours of Mike the Blogger.